welcome to Radio Free Nintendo. We are joined today by the returning Mr. John Lindemann.
It is great to be back, James.
It's been, what, 3 weeks?
3 weeks.
Yeah, jeez. It's been a while. Show is so calm, so peaceful.
It's been long enough.
So.
There's a new sheriff in town who was the same as the old sheriff, but he's back and madder than hell.
This is 879, by the way. John, do you know who was on 878?
It was Neil and John. Correct?
Okay, good. Okay, all right. Because I know you do the not tweet. Also joined by Mr. Greg Lay.
Oh, hey, everyone.
And I am James Jones. It is June 13th. We are through the Summer Games Death March, which was just 1 2-hour presentation after another for an entire goddamn weekend. It was exhausting. So much more exhausting than E3 somehow. But god damn it was a slog. Nintendo has not announced the date for their Direct. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But we were talking before the show, and we talked about it last week when we were talking about like SEO and the impact Google has on websites with Neil and John, the other John, not this John. The lack of efficacy of AI overviews, which is Google's like AI summarization tool, where if you ask it a question, it tries to give you an answer based off data sets that it's pulled from large language models based on content that it found on the internet, consistently reindexing. This infamously gave us the put glue on your pizza to make the cheese stay in place, and then when they killed that result, started referencing news articles about them killing that result, and once again telling people to put glue on pizza. This is not a very good LLM. I'm just going to go out and say it. Like, I'm not an expert at developing LLMs, but I'm also going to say Google's not either. So, not a great showing. But Greg, do you remember the scenario that we talked about, what we would love to see the Google AI overviews do? We talked about it last week. What would be very funny for us?
It's about the Showpony.
It was about the Showpony.
Of course it had to be, didn't it? Yeah. So because already you have assiduously worked to get your sort of, I don't know, what do I want to say, musings, but
manifesto?
Writings of some sort regarding Monsieur Showpony to up there in the sort of
number one Google
or
result for Horace Showpony.
Yes, exactly.
Stupid fucking article.
I mean, as much as I would be happy to celebrate it as a triumph for you, I mean, it is really an indictment of the the complete just coming and going without a trace of that piece of software. Must be stated.
If Nintendo made any effort, they could take me off the top, but they haven't. So we are number 1, 3, 4, and 6 in the Showpony results, I believe.
I love it
right now.
Yep.
Like just absolutely dominant.
And I think we earned it too.
I mean, I earned it, certainly.
Yes, certainly.
I've been pushing very hard on this one. But yes, it was about Mr. Showpony. Well, so a listener, Nexus Buster, aka Slade, sent me a DM on Twitter, which is still the hell site, of a screenshot where he searched for the phrase, "Who is Horace Showpony?" I went and also did this search because I thought he was making a joke, but he wasn't. AI Overview jumps in at this moment when you make this search and says, quote, "Horace Showpony is a character in the Nintendo Switch game Everybody 1-2 Warriors. He is the game's master of ceremonies, parenthetical MC, and is described as a demigod and a cursed totem with an astral and equine plane of being." They are fucking quoting my article as fact.
Oh my god.
I won so hard. I was so happy. It was like I was cackling for an hour.
I like the way this is. You could be construed as a new front in our sort of
Yes.
war with speaking things into existence. You know,
I was just about to say that, Greg. Yes,
we've often
this is just
sort of tried to claim credit for like, oh, you know, this thing, you know, comes back right after we were lamenting it being gone for so long or whatever. Thinking it's improbable that anything could ever change or whatever. But now this isn't just, you know, kind of completely disconnected anymore. This is actively building up something. For
this is sabotage.
I like to think that we don't really speak truth to power. We speak stupidity into existence.
That's right. So the best part is if you click the show more button on this, you would think, okay, it's going to take you to something that's not fucking stupid, right?
No. I want to see more of Horace Showponies.
If you click show more in the AI overviews, you get one more sentence which says, Horace Showpony is frequently discussed on the Radio Free Nintendo podcast. And I'm
there you go.
It's
correct?
not wrong.
Correct.
See, what I'm hoping is that, you know, one day, and to be fair, this could be decades from now, right? There could be a Super Smash Brothers game where they just really start phoning it in, right? And like they have the equivalent of like stickers or trophies and stuff. And the bio is just, you know, AI written by whatever, you know, kind of search engine or whatever is popular when this game comes out. And that means that we could be in Smash Brothers. You know, that show
funny.
could be mentioned.
So I put this in the NWR Discord, which you should join, and it was a mix of shock and disbelief and just absolute delight. Like just all the same emotions I was having. And all I could think about at that point, and I mentioned it on the show, is kind of like this mental exercise I do. Somebody at Nintendo of America has, at some point, Googled Horace Showpony just to see what they're like, you know, what's out there. Because they own the trademark. They would do it at some point. And they have been confronted with the 17-ish 100-word nightmare I put together. And I just want to imagine some poor NOA bastard has sat there and read that whole thing front to back and thought, what the fuck am I reading right now? And the only response to reading, like, because keep in mind, if you haven't read that article, it's the punchline in like a 7-article series. I think it's 5. I think I wrote them over the course of a month and a half. And so, like, you might have to go back and review them, including ones where I recommend creating an F-Zero cart as a tax haven. And actually, no, it's not the punchline. It might be the punchline. A Mario Kart one just to make money. And there's another one I put in there that's really stupid. But like the whole premise of the whole thing was this build to like, okay, we're going to talk about Showpony now. And 90% of the effort was me photoshopping his head into various historical contexts. It's such a stupid article. And Google's like, that looks factual. Horace Showpony is definitely on Mount Rushmore. Put it in the article.
It's fantastic.
That is that in my hypothetical AI-powered Smash Brothers of the dystopian future where Sakurai is age has finally caught up with him and Nintendo's just phoning it in. That might be the sticker. That might be the trophy. Is the Mount Rushmore with Horace on it.
Yeah. I mean, just as a comment on AI, it amazes me that somebody out there said, we need to train this on a set.
Yeah.
And we're going to just choose the entire internet.
The whole thing. Fuck it.
Like, it's like, have you been on the internet in the past 30 years?
The past ever?
Yeah.
Yeah, there is an extreme, like, we'll just fuck it. Like, whatever. Like, there's no way. It struck me as I was looking, because I you know, I'm on a product team in a technology context. Like, it struck me very much as somebody didn't have or somebody knew the thing that they were doing was bad. Like, somebody at Google knew AI overviews sucked. Like, they didn't release this thing and are like, holy shit, it's recommending people eat rocks.
Yep.
Like, they knew it was garbage. They just they hadn't fully, like, Raptor tested the gates yet.
Yeah, and I mean, they had to, they're like, hey, we have to tell our investors something, so ship this.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So,
there
like, They just said train it on the whole internet and fuck it. Like, it is impossible you read that article. First off, the article is explicitly stating that it is a thing I want to exist, not that it does. So that's not even sarcasm. Like, they just interpreted it wrong altogether because the article is saying explicitly this isn't real. Like, I'm not hiding it. But the funniest part to me is that it quotes me wrong. It says that it describes is described as a demigod and cursed totem with an astral and equine plane of being. It's like, well, no. I mean, I guess you can rejigger the sentences to be that, but like it summarized them and used all the weird, dumb, flowery language I did and put them in the wrong fucking order. It's great. Oh, this made me so happy. But really the coda was clicking show more, and his Horace Showponies frequently discussed on the on the Radio Free Nintendo podcast. And I'm like, correct. You're right, it is.
Yeah. Now I'm curious. I wonder what it is basing that on, and my guess is what the articles.
So the citation it used for that was one random Mastodon post.
Huh.
But yeah, I would assume it's basing it on the articles or basing it on the RSS feed. Because Horace is in the RSS feed an alarming number of times.
Yeah.
Normally, I don't include him when I just make a dumb joke, but sometimes I do. Like, he's going to be in there today. This just makes me so... Like, this goes on my all-time list of dumb shit I've accomplished writing for this site. Like,
yeah, it's an accomplishment. There's no other way I could describe it.
This article got me two. Like, one, I own like half of the search results for Horace Showpony in the top 10. That's demented. And in fact, like, it was only 4, and then a 5th one popped up recently, which is extra demented. Like, I haven't touched that article in 9 months, and it suddenly generated a new result. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. But to be part of the AI overviews experience, really, like, it's the gift that keeps on giving, really. This is absolutely just, like, what's next? Are they going to launch, like, an image generation service that's going to generate a Horace Showpony nightmares based on my art? I hope so. That'd be great. This did result in people in the Discord generating J&J Dream Factory logos using AI. One of them had a hot air balloon surrounded by bubbles. And I'm like, yeah, sure, fuck it. That's great. That's the logo. We did it. We did it, boys. J&J Dream Factory, a division of ChemHealth Pharmaceuticals, better living through chemicals. Hot air balloon and bubbles.
What happens if you search on J&J Dream Factory?
I never even thought about it.
Yeah, it just occurred to me.
Oh, no. I can't remember if it's one word or two. Just Dream Factory and Johnson & Johnson, which is like this weird thing that I was always aware that like it was going to be a problem. The Dream Factory API, which is less interesting. Damn, well, it's too common. Horace Showpony, nobody cares.
That's the thing, isn't it? It's so special. It's specific, and yet also there was no official attempt to kind of claim it. You know,
right.
Like so with its own supporting content or anything. So it's just I do feel like the scenario described with Nintendo employees searching it sort of just to check. I would imagine they approached it with the philosophy of someone trying to prove the old sort of thing about if a tree falls in the forest and no one's there to hear it, does it make a sound? And what they found was, well, actually, no, there was one person there to hear it, and they've invented a sort of parody mythos around this tree falling being so fucking stupid.
Oh no, they've fixed it, and now it's not part of the. Maybe I'm just not getting AI overviews again. Like, now I'm just getting a snippet from the Go Animate V2 wiki that says he's the host of 1-2 Switch. But we are still the number one actual result rather than the fucked up, like... It's not generating an AI overview anymore. I'm very sad all of a sudden. Like, this was my my moment, and they've taken it from me. I don't know how to feel about that.
I don't get an AI overview, but then again, maybe I'm opted out or something. I'm not too sure.
Like this was the first time I had ever gotten one. It no longer generates an overview. Well, damn it. I got it for a little while, and I'll take it.
I mean, it could be their A/B testing, right? So
yeah, we got a D. It's like, oh, this fucking sucks. What did y'all do?
It is. We are the top result, though. A moral obligation. Everybody 1-2 Warriors. It's like, god damn it.
Oh, but then we're number 3 as well.
His plane. I mean, it's so good, man. It's so good.
Like the fact that I decided one day to stick Horace Showpony in the people category at Nintendo World Report, which no one ever fills in the people category.
This article, the pictures in it, my god, man.
It's demented. I know. I know.
Like the horse head in an astronaut costume.
But it doesn't fit, so they could never close the visor. Yes. And the comment that goes with it is just the word pumpkin suit. Nothing else. No further
the old wrestling photo. Yes. Oh my god. I can't even with this article.
It's so
I'm not Rushmore.
It's so stupid.
It's so ridiculous, man. It's so ridiculous. It's like some of your best work ever by far.
Or is that just call it Mount Horsemore? And there's no. The thing is, the pictures have no relevance to anything. They're just there. They're just punchlines to jokes that never got set up. They just get.
This is a grinding monotony. This is a prison of my own mind with myself as both jailer and inmate in a horse mask.
Yes, that's how I signed the article off.
Oh God.
It's so stupid.
I'm oddly reminded of the end of American Psycho where he says this confession has meant nothing.
Yes.
But now Christian Bale's wearing the Horace mask. What he says.
Yeah.
I think it might end with me like saying, "This is a new dark age that I've spawned in." So yeah, I'm fucking miserable. Why am I doing this? And then the absolute most fucked up thing is there's a next page on this feature. It's like, is that the end? No, it's not.
Oh, God.
But there is an unposted next page because I never wrote this. I never finished this page. Called Excite Warriors Promises a Future Where All Non-MP3 Music is Available. I just never, I couldn't get past the Horace article after I wrote it. I was like, I'm too drained to finish the fucked up Excite Warriors one. It's just gonna be Excitebot's characters fighting the stupid polygonal head in Excite Truck as if it was Andros. I was like, yeah, that's it. That's the plan. That's the absolute goal. It's like, no, I can't do it. I can't do it. I wonder if the Punch-Out War, I know it's probably too well known. It's the problem of if you wanna fuck up with AI overviews or Google search results, find something no one's talking about, but that it would be very funny for you to dominate. That's the goal. Go figure it out. Don't do Horace. That was mine. You can't have him. do something else.
You can't. It's like the perfect storm of something that has some kind of connection to a well-known company property,
right?
But they just have such remarkably little interest in that this is possible. It's like a scientific experiment come to life. It shouldn't be this clean. It shouldn't be this zero interest, but it is, and that demonstrates what is possible when you have this sort of what can only be described as an interest vacuum.
But also it shows the power of bad actor, which I am undeniably a bad actor in this scenario. I am an immoral force in this particular story. It shows the influence a bad actor can have. It was really that easy for me to just not even deliberately do this. If I had deliberately done it, I have to assume it would be way funnier.
Yeah.
I would have done something way more demented. I can't even think of what character I would love to just hijack like this. It again, I don't know if there's a scenario where I can come up with one. Like, maybe I could bomb the image results for Metroid Prime 4 logo with just the number 4 over and over again using AI. Like, that would be funny. But is it going to accomplish this? No. This is extra stupid. No. I do want to know why this got pulled from overviews, though. Did somebody flag it? Did the fact I tweeted about it, did that somehow make it to a Google engineer? He's like, motherfuckers.
You opened Schrodinger's box on that one.
I did. I rated it a thumbs up as a good overview, though, which I thought was appropriate. I was like, how is this over? Yes. But
I mean, do they actually expect to get earnest responses?
I don't know.
With that measure, you know, I mean, it's like there's no way that people are that is so entirely wrong. I'm giving it a thumbs up. Like, that's going to happen a lot.
Yeah, I agree. Running with scissors, doctors do recommend it as something good for your health. Thumbs up. Like, yeah, absolutely. I'm going to give every correct overviews answer I get a thumbs down, but the ones that are really fucked up, they're getting thumbs up all the time. So this is at the risk of being more self-indulgent than this entire exercise was, which it was very self-indulgent. I just thought it was very, like, I would assume this search was spurred on by Slade hearing us talk about this very topic last week. And it just never occurred to me to try. Like, there's no way this is going to hit an AI overview. Who the fuck cares? And the answer was, haha, you fool. You have not given yourself enough credit for being stupid, but Google being stupider. And that's always a good, like, remember, kids, if you feel like you are just failing at everything, remember that Google, a company worth almost $1 trillion, released a product that told you it's good for your health to eat at least one rock a day. And you will never do something that also that caused international news coverage. You will never do something so stupid that it leads news coverage across the world. Just like, feel good about it. Like, at your dumbest moment. That will never happen.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you look at extreme intelligence and realize that it only enables stupidity on a massive scale.
Right, it just exposes the stupidity that was otherwise hidden.
Yep.
Sometimes it's good to remember that your biggest screw up will never be anything close to the lead engineer. Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and blame this on the product manager of AI overviews. Biggest screw up. Because this is going to be on their resume and everyone's going to ask, so how about running with scissors, huh? Until they fucking die. It will be brought up at their wake. They will live with this forever. You, whatever your mistake was, don't have to live with that. You're welcome. That's life advice from Radio Free Nintendo. Unless you did something truly, like, catastrophic.
There is episode 103.
Yeah, that's true. Fuck.
We're always in the glass house, James.
Yeah, I know. Well, my mistake on 103 was believing that I wasn't being lied to.
Well, what do you think Google's mistake is?
Google's mistake is, yeah, this is good enough.
Believing stories about zoetropes with Horace in it or whatever. Believing your lies, James.
If anyone's curious, does the zoetrope animate? It does. My lies were harmless. Stan's lie about, oh no, Carl and I will be fine, was not. Was not harmless. It was very harmful. That lie had much harm inflicted. Remember, kids always talk about 103, but 104 and 105 are right there. 104 being the corrections, and 105 us being, Johnny's gone again. Can we burn the house down a second time? Maybe. So the show has always been stupid, is what I'm saying. This was never a serious program. Speaking of serious programs, John, I don't know if you saw this story, or Greg. There was a so-called leaker who has been on social medias for the last, I don't know, year or so.
I saw this headline.
Yes, went by the name Midori, who was claiming to be a Japanese person who had insight on what was happening at Sega, and then suddenly had insight on what was going to be announced at all the Japanese companies, which is definitely not how leaks work. You're not going to suddenly have a source or be a source at many companies. You are going to be a source at one company. That's how it works. Apparently, this individual was, one, not Japanese, despite the broken English they were using. And two, was pretending to be this character they created, and maybe at one point had threatened to like blackmail people in games media to get them to turn over like leaks and stuff. I don't know. It's fucking wild. Clout chasing is dangerous. The only clout you should be chasing is the Horace Showpony clout. That's it. That's the only clout worth chasing. But like, this is where we're at right now. We have somebody who was caught fake leaking because other people online posted a Pastebin article where they did a deep dive into their identity and pulled evidence collectively as a group to prove that this individual was a fake alias created by another individual who used to post on a message board. Again, remember, your moment of, like, people were taking a victory lap, but my immediate takeaway is, bro, you launched a CIA investigation to figure out if a leaker was a fake person. No, there's no winners here. So remember, again, kids, your screw up probably won't cause a bunch of people on the internet to launch an investigation of you. You're probably in better shape than that. Conversely, your screw up probably isn't you led an investigation into a alleged leaker. Just what a story. What a wonderful ride we're on. So there is stuff left to leak despite the Summer Games death marathon session from last weekend. And that's Nintendo. And we're going to leak it to you right now. We are going to leak the contents of Nintendo's yet to be... It is announced. They've announced it's going to happen. They haven't told us when. But we will. We are going to leak the contents.
I mean, why go around, blackmailing people trying to find this stuff out when you could have just waited for us to tell you straight up?
You could just listen to Radio Free Nintendo.
Much ado about nothing. Silly
a podcast for grown-ups. I can't believe that's still technically the tagline of the show.
I mean, it was always ironic, but...
It's just gotten more so lately.
Well, I mean, in some ways not, because we're just way the fuck older.
Well, that's
Everyone,
true.
like the people who've listened to it, presumably are way the hell older as well.
A podcast for old people, I guess, is probably the better way.
Let's just put it this way. It's never been more true than it is
That's
now.
true.
Let's just leave it at that.
Do you consider geriatrics grown-ups? Asking for a friend who may or may not be on the show.
Age is just a number,
eventually
right?
you start sliding back down and becoming more childlike. I mean...
Is that where you're at, John?
I'm just saying. I'm not saying... Again, I'm just saying, hypothetically speaking.
Hypothetically speaking.
Yep.
You regress back to mashed peas. Yes.
Yes, eventually.
Time is a flat circle. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna start with that. So we're gonna leak to you exclusive. This is where I'm gonna put the audio of it's exclusive. Like the voiceover of CVS Bangers, which again is a reference that like 8 people are gonna get. Just Google it. Just fucking Google it. I think I sent it to John once, where it's a DJ talking over music that would play in a CVS, like they're in a fucking club. With air horns and everything. It's amazing. But we're going to leak to you right now when the exclusive information about when this direct is going to take place. John, when is the Nintendo Direct?
I mean, everybody's thinking it's going to be the 18th, right? That's what I've been...
That's what everybody's thinking. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Is that what our sources are telling you?
I have no sources. But, yeah, sure.
The 18th would be a Tuesday, next Tuesday.
Yeah, but I would think that they would have already announced it by now.
Yeah, like that's my guess.
Yeah,
they would
I would think maybe more the 25th or something like that.
So I am going to leak exclusively to you right now that it is going to be on the 26th. Sources being very secret, and I cannot share them. Greg, what are your sources telling you this direct is going to be announced on?
Yeah, well, I definitely don't have any. And but I mean, usually was it like 2 days or something? The lead in, like that's
but for their June one, I think they'd give us a little bit more, right?
And of course, they've already kind of broke with convention by the mere fact that they've acknowledged that there will be one this June, because they're already dealing with the abnormal situation of like, okay, well, yeah, we all have to sort of admit that there's another system coming, but we've got to manage expectations by saying, well, yes, there's going to be direct, but no, don't even think about it. There's not going to be any successor stuff in there. So yeah, that's why we're in the slightly weirder position than usual. So I guess the usual cadence of like, okay, here's when it's going to be, and then is it, like I said, typically about 48 hours or something, isn't it? At most, like, but it might be a bit different on this occasion. But also, yeah, I got to think it's going. I mean, they've already done some of that expectations management with specific relation to the successor platform, to the Switch. But yeah, I mean, beyond that, I have to think it's going to be kind of modest, right? I mean, it just kind of feels like that's where we are really at this stage of the cycle and everything. Again, even if they are like relatively kind of low key releases that they've got like kind of pretty modest expectations for, you're talking about a system. With however many it is now, well over 100 million now. Are they up to exactly how many? Are they up to exactly? Something like 130 or something. I forget exactly.
Look at now. Hold on,
because
it's up there because it. I want to say it passed the DS.
It definitely passed the DS in Japan alone. I know that where in Japan they've sold, I think, more than 33 million in Japan alone, which is pretty ridiculous. So when you've got the size of the install base that they've got, even if you think
141.32 million,
141, yeah. So then the DS was what, right around 150 globally, I want to say. So they've got a decent chance of hunting that down eventually, because it won't just stop overnight. When the successor gets here, Switch sales, there's going to be a tail off, obviously. But, I mean, we've seen with some of these other kind of platform transitions of like, they tend to be softer now than they used to be. And
way softer.
Even years ago, stuff like PS2, they kept selling for a decent while, especially in certain markets in some cases. Obviously, things will be different. So, yeah, I mean, the point is they've got so many out there that even if you've got some releases that are not exactly, of the scale and the sort of excitement level of, Super Mario Brothers Wonder and Tears of the Kingdom from last year, where those things can sell, more like in the tens of millions, you can still sell, millions of these. They already have this year, right? Stuff like Mario vs. Donkey Kong, Princess Peach. Those are million sellers already. And that's what you can do when you have an install base of this size and kind of recognised IP. So you have to anticipate there'll be more of that sort of thing. But I just don't think it's going to be anything that they expect to set the world on fire, So that's probably, that may affect the timing and stuff. Maybe let the Summer Game Fest stuff kind of just fade into the background, and then it comes with this because maybe you don't particularly want like a direct juxtaposition there.
Yeah, like the takeaway from the I mean, I've been joking about it and referring to it as various forms of just absolute mental anguish, is that so many games were talked about in such a dense window of time that it just became impossible to keep any of them straight in mind. Even just the Xbox event, which had a lot of games, like eventually we started referring to them as that other game that for cinematic reasons is running at 24 FPS, which is not good. Don't do that. But like it just became, or that swamp game, just because there was so much that it was hard to keep anything in your brain. So yeah, having some gap there, just some like give people's memory sections of their brain a chance to recover. Can't remember what part of the brain that is. I get the irony of that. Yes, I'm aware. Isn't a bad thing because it was exhausting. Like it was actually hard to watch those after a while because it was just like trailer, talk about game, trailer, talk about game, and these would go like almost all of these were 2 hours long, which Nintendo will definitely not be 2 hours long. Exclusive interview leak here. The Nintendo Direct will not be 2 hours long. I promise you that.
Yeah, hour max.
Donald would have an aneurysm if it was 2 hours long.
Again, I mean,
so
it depends how much they want to like drag it out or dress it up or all that. But I mean, I kind of feel like I said it's gonna be. Think of it, go lower. You know what I mean? That it be shorter, that it be more focused than you might think. You know what I mean? Like I said, at the moment, it's like, okay, we've got
40 minutes.
We've got that might be on the long side. I mean, I just think like we've got Luigi's Mansion in June, the HD version of the second game. We've got the NES World Championship thing in July. They're probably just going to fill in those few months after that and maybe not that much else, you know what I mean? Because, again, we're in this weird situation of, they're probably, the really kind of big questions are to do with the next platform, and that is already something they've told us they're not going to address here. It's going to be addressed, at a time that suits their overall planning for that with relation to, how you handle it with the investors and how hype it up with the public and all this kind of stuff. So like that, yeah, I think it's just like probably try and keep it as kind of focused on a few games, that are going to kind of take you through the second half of this year. And that's it. That doesn't have to be ages. Now, I guess, depending on how much you want to put the spotlight on some third-party partner stuff that goes along with that, and how much time you want to spend on probably things like, we've got this and that coming to Switch Online, which isn't a new game launch or anything. Like you could run up the running time of it a bit using things like that, but I don't think they'd be terribly keen to go too far in that direction. So I would imagine a more modest and more kind of focused version of, the kind of broadcasts that they've had in previous Junes.
So then do you think that means that they will not announce their Christmas lineup?
Well, I think obviously these days you've got to say October has generally been kind of the slot, hasn't it? Where, we've seen Super Mario Brothers Wonder, for instance, and as we know, as I already said, I mean, we've already sort of up to July. So I think if you don't do like August, September, October, I mean, what are we even doing here? So I would imagine we'd go that far at least. Now, it could still leave open, the kind of slot that we saw, say, for instance, Super Mario RPG was in last year, because I believe that was more like November, December, wasn't it? That kind of thing. But yeah, I would expect, just to fill in, the most of that second half of this year. But like, don't assume too much about how much, because like I said, it's, I think they're going to look, rather than kind of, oh, it's this huge thing, you know, this big, like, get everybody's, yeah, because a lot of the time the length of it actually comes out beforehand, right? Like,
Yeah,
people,
it'll be like approximately 42 minutes.
yeah, and I
Yeah.
think it's that could also be a form of expectations management here, right? You set, like, it's a shorter running time, so don't go, you know, kind of getting carried away with how much stuff you think is going to be in this thing, because there probably isn't going to be like the most crazily compelling or just, you know, the broad range of stuff. You know, it's going to be that kind of end of cycle stuff that we've been getting in this one and that we've had in previous cycles, you know, just with a hell of a bigger install base to kind of, for that to be, you know, to pay dividends. That doesn't mean it can't be some cool stuff, especially for, you know, people who are more, you know, real enthusiasts, you know, that have a lot of history with Nintendo games, and that they're probably going to be trading off that in a lot of cases. So, you know, I think it doesn't mean it's like, oh, well, it's just, don't even bother watching it. It's just going to be, you know, a total snoozer or anything. But it's just in terms of the scale, I think, you know, I would, you know, be expecting more on the slight, the slimmer side. But, you know,
Yeah,
we'll see.
I could also see them with certain, maybe dropping a certain game and then saying, we'll come back to that in September. I could see them maybe doing that with certain titles.
Well, you could have like a dedicated broadcast for a specific game down the road, couldn't you?
Exactly.
I mean, obviously
Yep.
with Super Mario Brothers Wonder last year, they just sort of peeled it out, didn't they? Like
Yeah.
what appeared to be essentially a segment ready for a Nintendo Direct, and there's like, no, we'll just actually put this on its own to hype up the game beforehand. And that's the thing, that generally has been what they've been doing more of, right, for the last several months, plus is like, okay, let's just, you know, do more specific, like, you know, just videos for this particular game. And so you started to see it a little bit with Luigi's Mansion 2 now. And again, there's not that much to tell there in some ways, in terms of it does seem like it's just very much that game in high definition, which, including from what I've read of preview coverage, like the weird saving or lack of opportunity to save with some of those more protracted kind of mission run times that there were in that game. And it's been a long time since that game came out originally, so they probably shouldn't, and I'm sure they won't, assume too much about what people know about it, you know, because it's an old game. But equally, like I said, it doesn't seem like they've done a hell of a lot of revision there, because that was definitely something that's like, look, I mean, the 3DS, you could just shut it up, in the clamshell. Switch, you could just put it to sleep, but it's still weird for a portable game that, like, it didn't really have like an interrupt, like save, like, you know, at least, or something. And it does not seem like they've kind of addressed that. But I guess there's still a tiny little bit of, what do we got now? That's like a couple of weeks away or so, or less than that by the time the episode goes out. So. Yeah, you know, it probably is going to be more stuff like that, and certainly, I mean, based on the original sales of Luigi's Mansion 2 and the even bigger ones of Luigi's Mansion 3, they again may get quite a few millions out of it.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, when there's 141 million consoles out there, 0.5% is almost 1 million sales. Like, if you move 0.5% attach rate, you're at like 78 or 780,000 units.
Yeah.
It's really not that hard to hit. Like, it's almost at the point where hitting 1 million and like plateauing is kind of a disappointment for a Nintendo published game, which is nuts. It's nuts. I do think they're going to have at least something of, they've given themselves enough time that they don't have to treat it like an E3. Like, there's enough of a gap. But I do think they need something, because I think they understand no matter how much they manage the expectations, there's a limit. And it's June. People expect there to be something cool in June. Like, they could do anything they want to try to manage expectations, but reality is perception. Perception is reality. And people perceive that June is when all the announcements happen. That's why Keighley's summer of nightmare marketing was able to be a thing that exists, because the industry is aware that people have this ingrained expectation that June means game news. So the question is, like, what could they possibly be showing? Because I think, yeah, like Luigi's Mansion 2, it's not going to get really shown because it's coming out. Like, they're usually pretty good about that, about like, hey, this is coming out in a week.
No, and
like,
they've all the way back to like the first year of the Switch with ARMS in June. You know, they've almost always had a game that's coming out in June, but it's never necessarily going to be the thing that they're like really trying to get people excited for, because it's coming out, you know, a week or two or whatever after, you know, obviously back then with ARMS, like the E3 was still a thing, but, you know, like even now, as we said, they've still had June Directs and stuff. That's always been like, that's coming out, but that's going to have its own videos and promotion and whatever. And, you know, like what they have clearly an expectation of is that people are, you know, tuning in for the stuff they don't know about, the stuff that's going to fill in those holes in the schedule.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I mean, look, our sources tell us there will be a Kirby game in this Direct. And that is our source being, there's a Kirby game in almost every goddamn Direct.
Well, I mean, you can usually count on some kind of Kirby game, can't you? And I mean, certainly... Yeah, but that's the thing, because of like it's starting to feel a little bit protracted now. This kind of late period for the Switch hardware cycle. Like, we've already had Forgotten Land, we've already had the Kirby's Return to Dreamland remake that I spoke about not so long ago in previous years. So yeah, we might have been getting at risk of like Kirby missing his customary end of cycle slot because he kind of already took that shot before. But equally, I mean, there could always be something else, couldn't there? Another remaster or collection, or, you know, some of these sorts of more spin-offy type of things that we've seen before, you know, like the kind of multiplayer collection that they had on 3DS, if you remember that, right towards the end. Unfortunately, I can't remember what it was called, but, you know, that with Kirby, it's a sort of pliable enough kind of character. To put, even if it isn't like remakes or re-releases, there's still Kirby products, you know, in the offing.
Yeah, it's not shocking to say, hey, there will be some kind of Kirby thing that's not a major Kirby game, because of course they just released I'm blanking on what the name of that game was last year.
The Return to Dreamland remake was last year, right? And
was Forgotten Lands 2023?
That was before. That was the year before, right?
Okay, I couldn't remember.
Which was that was like a major Kirby game, like Forgotten Land, you know, because you're talking about taking it into 3D in that way, and for the first time, and the scale of it, you know, was very much kind of. I mean, it in a lot of ways, it was really quite faithful to the kind of, you know, Triple Deluxe, you know, Star Allies, Robobot kind of lineage, but also going into 3D as well. So that was. I kind of feel like, in many ways, like for proper new Kirby, like that was their Super Mario Brothers Wonder. That was their like sign off, right? It's just like, okay, and then the next game of Kirby that probably feels like legitimately, you know, kind of major would presumably be on the next hardware. But you know, you never know, because again, it's Kirby. I mean, it's, you know, Kirby's Adventure on NES was like 93, I want to say. I mean, it doesn't get much later than that.
No.
Yeah, so, and that became a tradition. It did, you know, like you look at the Kirby games like Dreamland 3 on Super Nintendo. Kirby 64 was pretty damn late. It was in 2000, right? For the N64. So that is, you know, major Kirby games do show up late, but I still kind of feel like that was probably it. Spin-offs, like I said, they've done a remake, so spin-off could be the next thing.
Yeah, so something that they can outsource significant portions of the development to. Because I'm confident that HAL's primary teams are hard at work on the successor system at this point.
Yeah, although it was fun when I played, completed the Return to Dreamland remake on Switch, watching the credits, you had the logo for Vanpool came up. Neil mentioned them last week because they were behind the Dylan games. And I was like, oh, Vanpool, yeah, I remember them, the Dylan games and various things. Tingle games, again, as Neil mentioned. And it was just like, there was this, my brain's going through all the mental associations, and then it's like, oh yeah, they got shut down, didn't they? It was like right after that. Basically, after the Dylan sort of period, they became seemingly pretty much like a just dedicated Kirby support studio. Like all their credits are just for like co-development on the Kirby products that came after the Dylan's Rolling Western games. And after that, Kirby's Return to Dreamland remake, the studio was shut down, unfortunately.
Yeah, I do wonder, like, a lot of those, I don't know what the right word for it is. I don't want to say support studios, but like studios that did work for Nintendo. A few of them have had their lights turn off to the point where I wonder if like that might actually diminish the number of things Nintendo can put out in this. I don't even know what you'd call this period, like. The dusk of the console,
the Twilight. Yeah. That's it. I'll be deep put out Twilight Princess, don't you? Obviously, I mean, you have to. It's just the synergy is too much.
Mm.
I mean, considering,
I wonder if this is where we're actually going to see Xenoblade Chronicles X, a remake of it. I don't know.
I mean, is it a Xenoblade? Is that what your sources are telling you?
No, but I'm just thinking it
because you should shoot those
it has
sources.
To happen, and why would you wait until the next console to do it? Really,
it's an interesting question, that, isn't it? Because it's kind of like, again, you see that on either end, right? You see sometimes when a company's kind of struggling to come up with something for the end of a cycle, it can revisit something that was a bit obscure. And then on the other hand, at the beginning, it could be like, hey, we should like give this a shot. We could see, people are more open-minded at the beginning. I'm sure I've said this a million times, and maybe, that will help. And I think to some extent, the sales of Xenoblade Chronicles 2, when you consider that, there were not 140 million Switches in the wild in 2017, were relatively really quite strong, perhaps because, there weren't a million games for the Switch at that point, and more people were willing to try it. And then that, was, a kind of stepping stone to saying, hey, yeah, this series has got a certain amount of popularity, and we can go and do a definitive edition of the original Xenoblade Chronicles, and we could do Xenoblade Chronicles 3. So you could make an argument for it being either side of the divide in some ways. I mean, it's one of these things. It's tremendously sad that so few people have played that game, because it's a remarkable game and kind of, I think, important in Nintendo history as a kind of forerunner to Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, and just something that's very good in its own right, that I have to think, while, there are things about it that you kind of feel like it can only have so kind of much of a mainstream appeal, there's still got to be a great deal more people out there that could enjoy this thing than the minuscule amount that would have done on Wii U at that time, at the absolute death throes of that system.
And funnily enough, the internet connection for it finally went down. I think it was last week. It had been shut down. It had been officially shut down for a while, but there were some dead enders who were basically staying online as long as they could. And I think they ended up going like another 3 or 4 weeks past the date where you couldn't log in anymore. But it is officially dead. And despite being on the Wii U, Xenoblade X did have a lot of internet stuff. There was a lot of bonus material you could get, challenges, squad fights that were interesting and could let you see builds like somebody who walks in and kills. There's a level cap in Xenoblade X of 100. But see somebody who walks in at level 60 and takes down a level 240 Telethia by themselves. And you're like, what the fuck is that guy's build? That really was always an interesting experience when you walked in there and everything went absolutely nuts. And then you got cool items that you need to craft stuff. So that was a plus as well. Yeah, I mean, the Xenoblade X would be an interesting choice if the Switch's successor is backwards compatible.
Yeah, which I think it will be.
I agree. I think it definitely should be. The question is, would they release up? So, like the PlayStation 5 did this. There are PS5 versions of games that are also on PS4, and you can play your PS4 version, but the PS5 version has native 4K and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I could see there being Switch or successor versions of games that are Switch games that have something in them as a consequence. Like maybe they release a SKU of Smash Ultimate where the game is the same game, but essentially it just has all the DLC in it.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just like here's everything, which they may not be able to do. It depends on how the DLC characters were licensed. Like maybe they have to give a cut of every Sora sale. And so they couldn't bundle it in there. I don't know. I don't fucking know. I didn't write that contract. I ain't seen it. But something like that. I think that's maybe Mario Kart's a better example because they own all the plays there. But again, they're giving away the DLC if you have the expansion pack. So I don't know, but you get the point. I could see them releasing exclusive SKU versions of games that are backwards compatible on the new system that offer something. Maybe they have better resolution or better frame rate or something. You know, like the minorly tweaked to improve their quality, but also to get people who are new to the ecosystem, which seems almost impossible with 141 million units sold, but that will happen, that aren't going to go browse the Switch's old library to see what's up. I think to that end, Xenoblade X would be like the most demented, but also like a really good choice.
I think it would create a lot of buzz for sure.
Oh,
I mean,
definitely.
It's the thing where it would really, I don't know, it would have a groundswell of support. That's for sure. It would surprise people.
Well, and
I
the
think
other thing I'd say
one of the
is
problems right now is you're not surprising anybody really.
I wonder, you know, with some of the kind of games that they've been sort of peppering the lineup with so far this year. Obviously, it's like been really heavy on Mario characters. With Mario versus Donkey Kong, Princess Peach, Showtime, Luigi's Mansion 2, and also like the length of those games is not necessarily that vast either. I mean, it would fill a bit of a slot of just like here's something that's more substantial, like that you could sink your teeth into if you want people to, if you're looking. Maybe some people are like, no, I want to play something that's on the scale, more, akin to the scale of like a Tears of the Kingdom again on my Switch. There's not a lot of places you can find that, right? Because you aren't going to develop it from scratch for this part of the cycle. And there's not many of them lying around from the past. So, that is one of them. I think it could be a consideration if you think that that's an area that might be a little bit untapped with how kind of like short and sweet a lot of the other software releases have been so far this year. Although again, I mean, like Zelda. Revisiting Zelda like remasters and stuff is a little bit of a consideration, I would have thought, because especially Twilight Princess is interesting because like that's a bit of both, right? Like the Wii U HD port, again, how many people played that? It was at the at the end of Wii U, like it was pretty much like came and went, apart from the real enthusiast people. So you are going back to when it came out at the end of 2006 for Wii and GameCube. But again, how many people played the GameCube version? But it's that was a long time ago, but also it did sell a lot of copies. So you've got this kind of thing of like, well, that's kind of a major release that can be popular, but at the same time, it's not something that people have necessarily played terribly much lately because it's only re-release in that 18 years was something that pretty much very few people had access to, and even fewer people actually availed themselves of it.
I'm trying to think, is there like they've been so thorough, like so absolutely thorough in draining the Wii U like a fucking vampire. is there anything left that they could mine? Like, is there anything at all? I don't think there is. Like,
yeah, that's the thing. Like, Xenoblade Chronicles is pretty much it in terms of notable titles. Unless you want to go Devil's Third.
I mean, it is notable. You didn't say good. You said
Exactly.
notable.
I did not say good. I said notable.
I'm trying to think, is there anything else still stuck on Wii U? There's got to be something.
Yeah, well, we obviously we covered this a bit when we did the retroactive stuff, right? Where it was like, okay, what are with the shop shutting down and all that, like, what should we do? And we ended up doing Wind Waker HD and Kirby, the Canvas Curse sequel that's got different names in different territories. So those are a couple of the examples there that you could consider. Maybe that Kirby could be the game that you were already talking about, James. You could bring that back as your bit of Kirby product. Again, how many people played it? It's not incredible by any means. As a game, I think we covered that during the retroactive, but it's still got plenty of merits. The presentation is great and would look even better on the Switch, especially like the OLED screen. So then it certainly did on the gamepad back then and stuff. So, that is one of the relatively few candidates. And yet Wind Waker, that's got the sort of bit of a different spin from the point of view that, that has never been on a terribly popular system. So, whereas, Twilight Princess was. So, I mean, I don't know how much that really matters to Nintendo terribly much but having sort of put a fair amount of love into it twice, because the Wind Waker HD version was certainly more of a kind of remake than the HD version of Twilight Princess was. That was they outsourced that, and that was more of a port kind of situation than some reworkings and things that went into the Wind Waker HD. Maybe that counts for something in terms of how much they'd like to see people actually, buying it in larger numbers and enjoying it again. And that in itself was a long time ago. So that has to be considered as well, I think.
I have my next leak that I'm prepared to leak here, which is they will be offering the second Super Mario 3D All-Stars collection. This one will also only contain 2 games. It will contain Galaxy 2 and 3D Land, putting all the 3D games available on Switch.
Well, I mean, that's a fair point. I mean, in some ways, it was a little bit kind of, when they brought 3D World back, and that was really nice to see. I gotta say, I enjoyed that a great deal, playing through that again. But it felt like a bit of a shame that 3D Land got left behind as well. Like, you maybe could have thought, could you have brought that kind of up to par with it and bundled them together and stuff, because obviously it's the foundation for 3D World, but also it does have some of its own appeal because it's more specifically designed for single player, whereas of course the with 3D World, I mean, look, what you actually get out of it is it's just, more of the same template, which works really well. Much better presentation. The soundtrack is like multiple times better, like geometrically better. It's so much better than the soundtrack to the 3DS game, and things like that. But of course, the point of it was, now it's local multiplayer. Everyone can play together, and I'm sure some people got a lot out of that. I had a little bit out of it on Wii U, but not terribly much of the multiplayer. But that affects the level design, and I don't think it ruins it or anything for single player at all. But you go back to 3D Land, there's something nice about how compact and it is for single player use, and bringing that up to because now that the 3DS is just completely dead, the shop doesn't work anymore, or they don't sell the systems anymore, obviously for a long time. Like that is something that would be nice to see. And again, as you said, kind of just with the odd omission of Galaxy 2. Back when they did 3D All-Stars first time, then all of a sudden you could have something that's pretty much get a good sense of all of the 3D Mario games there's been on this system, presumably in the run-up to the likely prospect of a major new 3D Mario game being a flagship title for the next system, not necessarily at launch, but one would think within so many months, the way that Odyssey was for the Switch.
It is weird that there are so few like dead enders that they can just port. Like we've talked about Wind Waker, okay, but besides that, the 3D Zelda space is on like Switch has become this weird clearinghouse of basically the 3D era of Nintendo games.
Yeah,
like Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask aren't there. Wind Waker's not there. Those three feel like things that probably should have been corrected, even if they're just using the 3DS and Wii U ports respectively.
Yeah, I mean, you do have the N64 expansion pack, so that's something for Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, but like otherwise, all let's make sure. 1, 2, yeah, like 4 of the 6 3D Mario games are on there. So it's just missing Galaxy 2 and 3D Land. Besides those Zelda games, it's got them. Zelda's probably the biggest omission. It's got all the Xenoblade games. It's got a good chunk of the Kirby stuff, not all of it.
Yeah, especially with the the NSO filling a lot of gaps from the earlier Kirby history. At this point, you've got up to Kirby 64, on the expansion pack for the N64 and all that. I mean, and then a lot of stuff now. I mean, those 3DS games, as well, are very, very good. But whether that's something that's likely to get remade when you just remade the quite similar Wii game just doesn't seem that likely.
We're missing one of the fabric-based Yoshi games. I think that one was Woolly World.
Oh yeah, Woolly World's obviously not there because that was ported to 3DS. That was it did get a lifeboat off the Wii U island, but
onto an island that had already been abandoned.
Not to Switch. No, there's something with a vastly bigger install base than Wii U, but not. But about half the size actually of what Switch has ended up being.
But yeah, like there's not a ton of obvious candidates. So I'm gonna stick to my my joke, which is as I keep saying, the 2 games that were in the first collection. The next 2 games that will complete the 3D set on there. I think that's the best.
I guess the other question is: do you just sell a new version of that or something, like bringing that back? Because let's
split them up.
We did have that bizarre, experiment, whatever it was there, with like, let's see how much we can sort of monetize fear of missing out by making this a limited time thing because of the anniversary being so all important.
There is a streamer whose content I consume on occasion who had never played Sunshine, which my thought was, well, that good, keep it that way. But they thought that it was an exercise worth doing, and the cost of obtaining a physical copy of that collection was extraordinarily prohibitive unless you ordered it from fucking South Korea and had it shipped to you. And that's what they did. That was significantly cheaper, on the order of like $30 or $40 than trying to attain a copy domestically. So yeah, like maybe just release those games as separate individual SKUs that you can pay for, and make Sunshine like $8,000 so nobody actually buys it, and then you're good to go. But like I feel like if you're gonna do that, then releasing Galaxy 2 would be a great, like, this is one of those things where we talk about, like, if Switch's successor is backwards compatible, which it should be, these kinds of like not super important but good back catalog games that someone might just buy on a whim have a lot of value. And so putting them on Switch right now has no downside, because they're going to be on, you're not going to do much more than you're doing with them right now. So if they can still play on the successor, they'll still be there when people decide one day, I want to buy that. Or like maybe it's on sale for like one of Nintendo's triannual sales. And it's like, yeah, that's the price point where I'd buy this thing. And then they get a little surge of sales and they're good to go. Like, they're in the middle of their triannual sale right now. And yeah, I bought something off of it that's like, it just hit a price point where I'm like, yeah, that's it. I'll pay for that now.
Yeah, Link's Awakening, I'm just looking at, it's $42.
Yeah. It's nice.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Yeah.
And that's a good price for it.
Yep.
And having things in your back catalog like that, and I think this is where their head would be as well. If you're backwards compatible, which I think we all think it will be, then this is the time to release those things, because you have a deep install base right now who's not really being served by a lot of new content. But here's content they might be nostalgic for, and they might be willing to buy. Your less activated base that might have fallen off of Switch, when the successor comes out, those games will be there. Because, look, no matter how successful the Switch's successor is, it's not going to have a ton of games at launch, a ton of exclusive games. So, having games that people already have affection for and are perceived as low risk to purchase has some advantage.
Yeah, like A Link Between Worlds remake, maybe?
Yeah. A remake of Minish Cap would be interesting.
Yeah,
like that
I could see one of those coming.
Yeah,
Minish Cap especially, because they already have Link's Awakening. You know, they already have that. They could just take that engine.
They got quite a fair few top-down things between the Oracle games, Minish Cap, and then the Link Between Worlds. At this point, is pretty old in itself, as already mentioned. Then all of those games are kind of in that vein of kind of Zelda gameplay that could be brought up to date theoretically.
Yeah, I have. I'm trying to think what the right way of wording this is. Like, in terms of like, this isn't like, we haven't done a great job predicting. I'm just gonna go ahead and be completely off the rails here and predict another Game Boy Zelda game. There, we did it. I got there. Like, I gotta predict something. So fuck it. It makes as much sense as anything else.
Well, some sort of Zelda product, right? I think is the thing. I just like, I don't know the precise form of it. I think there's actually quite a lot of options here, right? Because we've got the possibility of a 3D game that we've already discussed, right? Wind Waker and Twilight Princess being, the most obvious candidates. Then we've got the possibility of a top-down game that we just mentioned. But this goes further than that. Warriors. That has to be considered.
Oh, yeah. There's going to be a Warriors game, right?
A Warriors game is some description, but it could be Zelda. It could be, because, we've already had multiple of those. They seem to do pretty well. We already had, really did feel like back in 2019, the Age of Calamity was just like, this is, we kind of want a Zelda product at this time of the year, and this is going to be what fills that sort of spot. And it could be very much the same thing, or theoretically the Zelda game could be one of those re-release types, and the Warriors is a different franchise like that.
Maybe we will see a Metroid game, Metroid Warriors. Think about it.
I have been reliably informed by Google that there is a 1-2 Switch Warriors game coming out.
Is there a Horace Showpony Warriors game coming out?
Yeah.
Nice. Google will tell you that.
It's a deep psychological exploration of what it means to be an influencer in the year 2024. It's
battling on the Equine and Astral Planes.
Yeah, exactly. I don't even know what that phrase means.
It's amazing. No, I love it. It doesn't mean anything. It's great.
I just threw it in there because it made me laugh.
Yeah, makes me laugh. I laugh every time I hear it.
His planes are as astral as they are equine. It's like, what does that even mean?
I
just kind of like in like Marvel, right? Like the astral plane is where you have like psychic fights, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So it'd be like psychic horse races. It's a struggle.
I'm in.
It's a struggle of wills, as kind of visualized and kind of rationalized as a horse race. Except it's a bunch of guys maybe in masks just running around a track.
In masks and in shiny colored tuxedos. I'm there. I'm actually there. That feels like a Homer Simpson dream from like a season 12 episode of The Simpsons, where he just wakes up after that. But I'm down with it. Absolutely. I want that game.
And then, I mean, the other thing we've talked about as a possibility before that I think is quite realistic is Fire Emblem of some sort, perhaps a remake. I know Engage is not that far behind us, but as we kind of, led to believe that game had been finished for some time before it actually came out, and development duties would not necessarily be, in the same place anyway for like a remake or something, or another spin-off, because we've done Fire Emblem Warriors like multiple times. It could be, I wouldn't say necessarily Fire Emblem Warriors again, but like spin-offs or get some kind of Fire Emblem product. That has to be considered, I think, as a possibility.
And we talked about this last week on the show, I think, of like, if they went and made a sequel to, or if they made a Warriors for Age of Calamity, of the Age of Calamity Warriors for
Tears of the Kingdom,
Tears of the Kingdom, like,
to that.
What would you base it on? Because
the main thing is just like you've got more. First of all, I think, I wouldn't say that it won't upset some people, because I mean,
it'll upset me, but not for canon reasons.
It'll always upset some people, I suppose. But really, yeah, the wonderful thing about Tears of the Kingdom being, shall we say, a little bit fast and loose with any sense of continuity from from Breath of the Wild is that, well, you're not really kind of messing with anything. It's just kind of like, okay, let's be more kind of outlandish and joyous about messing with this stuff. And there's loads of things in Tears of the Kingdom would be interesting to see applied to a Warriors kind of setting. You know what I mean? Like the idea of maybe more like, let's mess a bunch of stuff up in a vehicle, like, or kind of giant mech stuff, and essentially like you could do. I don't know whether the Switch is really up for it on a technical level. It might just melt because it kind of felt like Age of Calamity was pushing it pretty hard in that area, and indeed Tears of the Kingdom itself just kind of feels like it's probably just maxed that hardware out at this point. So maybe that's something that could be more properly explored on the mech system, actually.
Just big dumb mech fights. Like, that's the Tears of the Kingdom Warriors power up. It's just big stupid mechs. Because like we finally do get a mech finally what everyone was waiting for, mechs in Zelda. It happens in Tears of the Kingdom. Why?
Well, don't forget, in Age of Calamity they do have those parts where you get to see the divine beasts in action in a way that you don't in Breath of the Wild.
Right.
Where it's just like on a massive scale and they're taking out, just scores of enemies in single giant laser beam attacks and things like that. So they kind of already went there before Tears of the Kingdom did. But still, like I said, I'd be, maybe if you really can want to realise this on a kind of scale that would be cool to see, maybe the new hardware would be a better choice, but like I said, they gave it a pretty good go with the last one.
Yeah, I definitely think there's a Warriors. I'm just struggling with what franchise as the resident Warriors franchise expert. I am struggling with what would be the appropriate franchise for Warriors, and I think besides Punch-Out, which is the correct answer. Like, this is the only correct answer is Punch-Out.
Yeah, Punch-Out becomes Warriors and DK becomes Punch-Out. This is how it should be.
Yeah, exactly. But, like, you solve two birds with one stone there. Like, you deal with the inherent... I don't want to use the word racism, because it's not racism. It's xenophobia. Xenophobia.
It's entirely unthreatening nationalism that has never done anything bad to society anywhere, ever.
I will take... if you have to make me pick a form of nationalism, I will take, which is definitely not going to be the name of the episode, I will take the Punch-Out one every single time.
Punch-Out nationalism. There you go, James.
I was going to go with the episode, was this 889? Episode 889, if I have to choose a form of nationalism, ellipses. I think an F-Zero game being the Warriors is an option. I'm just throwing that out there. You know, all the great characters of the F-Zero.
I mean, it's like every level is like Death Race. Basically.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just all these, except instead of, you know, in F-Zero X, there were, you know, the other 29 cars or whatever for you to kind of take out. It's just thousands of them. You just keep driving, keep taking them out.
Or as I refer to myself in the article about the F-Zero Warriors, we are neither attorneys nor certified financial planners. We're merely well-informed turbo geniuses with a nose for doing business. It's there. It's right there. You can make it. It's a game that the internet is ready for. I want to be able to date Octoman in a Warriors context.
I mean, as someone who's played a great deal of F-Zero 99, I feel like it has very much been preparing us for that entirely. I mean, you might say it's only got the original 4 cars and does not dwell on characters or anything at all. And it's just, you know, a kind of online expansion of the SNES game. But no, people are ready. People are ready to find out who Octoman really is.
I forgot that I photoshopped Octoman into holding 2 guitars so he can shred at the same time. This is an incredibly stupid article.
I feel like that's what you know when the Who Shot Mr. Burns episode when Otto asked for double guitars.
Yes.
He got like monkey paws so that he got turned into Octoman, but then, you know, he could wield double guitars.
You know what? I like it. And he would definitely deal with his pot problem because I'm fairly confident Octoman cannot consume marijuana. Just as a consequence of not having an effective mouth. Because I think he has like the round sucker mouth. So it would be difficult to put a cigarette or otherwise in there. So, hey, you know, probably better driver. As we know, Otto, excellent driver. The golden Mr. EAD pack. Jesus Christ, this is a stupid. This might be dumber than the other one, actually. Because that includes a Mr. EAD pinup in all editions. So if you ever wanted to have a poster of Mr. EAD in a sexually suggestive pose, that's the version for you. Fuck.
I don't know if there's anything about Mr. EAD that isn't sexually suggestive.
I would say everything about Mr. EAD is not. I mean, first off, the fact he's got
I guess it depends on what turns you on.
Not that.
How do you interpret the invincibility star around the codpiece? I mean, is that suggestive? What is it suggesting to you?
It's
indestructible,
virile,
virile to the point of danger.
Yep.
What an awful character. I know we've said it before.
Man, terrible.
But just consistently, convincingly awful character, Mr.
And don't
EAD.
forget, the commitment to the bit meant that he was also like tangibly worse as a racer because all the other racers that were in that similar kind of division of attributes with handling and, kind of weight and all that kind of thing were EAC.
Right.
And he's EAD, so he's just worse than all these, like, you know, similar counterparts. So it's just a fact. It's just not good.
I forgot that autosave is only a feature in 2 versions of my F-Zero game. That's a premium feature. Fuck, this is
I do think we still have to. I've now been harping on this for what feels like quite a while now, but the Donkey Kong has got to be happening, right?
I mean, a Donkey Kong Warriors would actually be reasonably funny. I think there's enough cast at this point you could. Like, could you release in the current state of the Switch? Is a Donkey Kong game small enough that you could release Donkey Kong Country, I don't know what you would call a sequel to a third one.
A third one in the lineage of Returns, and then Tropical Freeze, and then you've got a few options there, haven't you? I think. I mean, you've got bring back DKC Returns, because that was a long time ago now. Like,
and it's
wasn't
Wii
it?
and 3DS, so it's not been on anything for a while.
It's been more than a decade since that got a new release, and it was a proven seller. You know, it was a pretty big hit on Wii, and then it did all right on 3DS as well. So I think that brought closer to the standards of Tropical Freeze aesthetically. Would not be a bad choice, and might be something that's kind of within the it's certainly in the playbook that we've already seen, right? The kinds of projects that they have been bringing out in this period, it's within that. Then you've got could you do some sort of could be the other pattern that we've identified in the past is, let's remake games that have kind of dodgy, dated, pre-rendered graphics in the case of Super Mario RPG and Mario vs. Donkey Kong. So the DKC games were huge back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
It is the 30th anniversary of Donkey Kong Country later this year. So, maybe you go back and I guess it doesn't have to be all three of them by any means. It could be just be the first one. That's the one that's got the anniversary, or maybe it could be the more like a Super Mario All Stars kind of concept, but for Donkey Kong Country. I think that has to be considered a possibility as well, because it just feels like with the said before the theme park expansions and DK in the Mario movie, and the likelihood that they probably, if all goes well, will look to do a sort of standalone DK movie at some point, I would think. Just that these games at various points have sold well. You know what I mean? I mean, even DK64 on N64 was a really big seller in 1999, even though obviously the N64 was kind of, about 2/3 as popular as Super Nintendo was. And that, I would expect to see that also, DK64, as part of that tranche of games from Rare on the expansion pack. That might well feature in the Direct. That would be one of the things that I think would be kind of safer. Not that it's a guarantee by any means, but one of the safer things to imagine would be in there.
I'm trying to think. All right, so what are they going to end this Direct with? Since we all have it in front of us and we've obviously all watched it.
Yes, I've just been doing an extremely good job of method acting, not having seen it, having no idea what they're going to do. It's tough. I do think it's tough, right? Because most of the time, if you really want to send people away happy, it's that's the thing you end on is the thing that might be the furthest in the future, but it's the biggest. It's got the most gravitas to it, right? And like I said, the problem is what I see as being the purpose of this, or the scope of this presentation, is probably going to be, more on that sort of shorter time horizon and not necessarily anything that earth-shattering. So it makes it a little bit more difficult for the, kind of, and one more thing type of thing. I mean, I didn't see, as he kind of alluded to, because there was just so much of it and it does seem rather exhausting, I didn't see terribly much of the Summer Game Fest things, but I understand that was kind of light on that sort of fair, you know what I mean?
Yes.
The sort of, here's the real, with the old parlance, the megaton at the end, that because Sony wasn't unveiling loads of kind of first party things really. That for any time soon or any of this kind of stuff. It wasn't something that naturally goes in that slot. And I think that where Nintendo is in the cycle is even more kind of likely to be what would you try and dress up as that? The only thing that I could think of is if it were to be something like a Metroid Prime 4 of okay, we're gonna tease this a bit because it's something that might be further off, if it's going to be a launch title for the next system, or a bridge game across the systems, the way that Twilight Princess was once upon a time, for instance, with Wii and GameCube, that, it's kind of we're teasing this thing and it's not actually a tease for the next system, but people will kind of maybe associate it with that. So it'll give it a bit of extra gravity. It's almost like a Phantom thing, right? It's not actually that major, but maybe
Right.
people will read into it that way or something, you know, like so a bit of smoke and mirrors.
It gives it extra gravitas that it might not otherwise deserve, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, that might be the only way you could engineer that, because otherwise I just don't think you genuinely have it. I don't see how they could with what's already been taken off the table.
Right, not unless there is something that is cross-platform in a way. They probably still wouldn't want to talk about it. Like, they'd probably still rather save that for when they show the new system. And so, like I could actually see a third Donkey Kong fitting in that space.
Yeah, but it could be a useful thing to have for the next system as well, because I mean, I do feel like the likelihood is going to be Mario will be the big Mario game of the first X number of months will be a 3D game, right? Because we just had Super Mario Bros. Wonder, but that gives you that open spot for a side scroller. And, you know, DK is kind of the next in line, I would have thought, in terms of the commercial sort of performance. You know, and it has been a while. And Tropical Freeze, you know, obviously it was never going to do much on Wii U. I did pretty well, you know, sold those few million copies that a lot of games getting that kind of life raft off of Wii U onto Switch did. You know, but they may think the conditions now on a new system, you know, maybe you can get more of like an excitement behind it, you know, of you know, kind of than you did before, and may have it be more like what DKC Returns was, you know, when that came of like, oh, it's back, you know, after quite a long time away, you know, and if you do it right, you know, presumably you're going to have to think about somebody else to make it, because I assume Retro have been busy with Metroid and so forth. So, you know, there's a lot of unknowns in that process kind of part. But, yeah, it could serve both purposes, to be honest, like the end of Switch or indeed, you know, both at once, you know, like be one of those bridge games if it's backwards compatible or something. But, yeah, I kind of would, if I'm going to lean one way, I would say maybe new system for that. But it's far from, you know, the only way it could work.
Man, I think you could have one more kick at the Pokemon can. Because right now...
Oh, that's a good one.
There's nothing scheduled.
Well,
right?
I mean, we've got, obviously, with the Legends, you know, the Legends was Z to A, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
so,
that's 2025, though.
That's 2025, so it's... Normally, when they do that Pokemon Day thing at the beginning of the year, like, we know what would be this year's Pokemon, and we just don't have it. So it's kind of shocking in a way that we might actually get a year off from some kind of, you know, big time Pokemon you know, game, but it does look like that's what's going to happen. We're not going to have, you know, if there was going to be a remake in that slot, if a Black and White, like for instance, it feels like we'd already know. And then they have already announced the 2025 Legend sequel. So, spin-off, you know, like some sort of Pokemon product. We've already seen things like Detective Pikachu and so forth, like maybe. But it seems like the real Pokemon train is actually going to have a bit of a rest.
We could get like an actual, like this would be middle of the direct content, but we could actually get like an actual look at the new Pokemon Legends, like because the trailer they showed was just like, here's some renders of some buildings,
almost literally a sketch.
So we were talking about it before the show of the Canon Films like upcoming premieres, and it's just a bunch of B-roll of tractor trailers for Over the Top. Like it was that.
That's all they had at that point. Just.
So, like, maybe...
Do we have any images of Sylvester Stallone grimacing? Oh, I wonder. Could we find some?
Yeah,
Or the, was it Pacino?
No,
it was,
Pacino was an example that was not in that reel, but it was a thing that happened. But yeah, there was Dustin Hoffman, there was John Travolta. Like, we're doing a film with this person and we can say no more. But here they are in Saturday Night Fever or whatever.
Here's like the Dustin Hoffman one was, here's a bunch of headshots from his acting portfolio over the last 10 years.
He was in Tootsie recently. Did you see that? Like,
yeah, exactly. For our listeners, we're talking about a Canon Films distributor B-roll.
Yes.
I guess.
Apparently it's been like laser focused on old farts like us
on RFN co-hosts
YouTube algorithms, because this was as soon as John started talking, it's like, yep, that got fed to me. And I licked the spoon.
Yes, absolutely.
It's truly something else. I will try to remember to put it in the article this week. But I mean, it was the equivalent. So, like, I could see that being a big chunk of time in the middle of the direct.
That what they showed of the second Legends game was tantamount to that, essentially. The first, so we have got a lot of blanks to fill in. You could certainly spend some time with that. Just to move the ball down the field, even if it isn't going to be, here in this calendar year, that's fair. And maybe some other Pokemon type of content, spin-offs and things.
Pokemon Sleep comes to Switch.
Finally, I've been asking for it. I mean, so there's that. I mean, we've talked loads of times about the possibility of a Pikmin 1 and 2 / Super Mario 3D All-Star style collection for Metroid Prime 2 and 3. If we're still kind of trying to move that, build that momentum on from your Metroid Prime Remastered last year to presumably, I think we're right around the 7-year anniversary of the 4 being shown that we're so fond of reminiscing about. We're going to get somewhere with Metroid Prime 4, hopefully, finally, before too long. Anyway, whether there's anything this direct, like you said, I would imagine if it's going to be this one, it's either because it is coming out very soon, or it's because it's going to be that. Kind of try and end with a bang type of thing.
Mario Sports. There we go. That's my last prediction. Kind of.
I mean, that always
sport
has to be considered. I mean, sometimes it's really quite sad the way that something like Ultra Smash gets trotted out at seemingly no particular notice to just be a kind of zombie skew in a release calendar. I can't imagine you'd have anything, because just the circumstances not nearly as dire as they were, at the end of Wii U. But, it has to be considered a very strong possibility, because you can think of very many such examples. The end of GameCube brought us the first Mario Strikers. There was that Superstars game on 3DS, where it was a bunch of different sort of bits, wasn't it? Different sports kind of collected together, including
Mario Sports Mix or whatever.
There was some kind of Sports Mix was the Wii game, right?
Was it? Okay.
That was the one that Square Enix had.
I thought that was a DES game.
No, that was because Square Enix did the Hoops 3-on-3.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. Oh my god.
And then they also did Sports Mix, which was kind of like clearly some sort of successor project to that. I didn't have either of them, but
famous basketball expert Square Enix.
And then you had like Final Fantasy characters in that, I believe.
Yes, you could play as a white mage.
But the 3DS one was like a sort of compilation of different Mario Sports things as well, that I believe involved horse riding of some description.
I know one of the Olympic Games ones did, because there was Waluigi on a horse was one of the promo images. I think
the reason why I remember the horse riding in this particular context is because there were amiibo cards here, right? So rather than, like a whole bunch of different figures, you had these like packs of amiibo cards for that Mario Sports games, and quite a number of them were, a character on a horse. So there it is.
I'm down with that. Character on a horse. I'd call that the name of the game. Mario characters on a horse. That's the name of the product. I actually think the honesty of that is like a reverse marketing. We wouldn't be able to Google bomb that to the top like we could Horse Show Pony. We would be had by the lack of effort.
It's just generic enough to avoid AI hell.
Yeah, you know, or Mario characters on a horse is just going to return a bunch of AI generated images of Mario characters with 11 fingers on a horse with multiple eyeballs in the wrong location. Honestly, I think that's probably would be the best outcome of the Direct, is if it's just like a 5-minute trailer of AI generated prompt Mario character on a horse. And it's just like Toad is on the horse, but not riding it in the correct look, like sitting on top of the horse's head or whatever. Just fuck it.
Yeah, their one more thing is going to be how they're integrating AI into the Switch.
We're going to AI generate all the Toads, and they're all identical.
And it will record every single thing that you do on your Switch.
I hope so.
Every single terrible game that you get off of the eShop, it will record.
Oh boy, that's a problem for me. That's an actual issue, and I need to deal with that quickly.
I've got it. Mario Maker, where an extra I has been inserted after the A. And they've been secretly training AI on all the fucking horrible things that we made in Mario Maker 1 and 2. And it's like, get fucked, people. This is the hell you made for yourselves.
Mario Maker, this is your fault.
It could be called We Call.
Yes.
I do like the idea of like, we made Nintendo level designers play your bullshit, and they hate you. This is what they've made in response. AI trained exclusively on the Mario Maker levels that people couldn't beat.
I do feel like there are definitely points in Super Mario Bros. Wonder where you feel like there are things here that wouldn't be there if it wasn't for Mario Maker being a thing. Like,
oh, definitely.
The flowers themselves are kind of like, you know, like the Dot being there, like commenting on things about the level, kind of feels like some sort of outgrowth of the whole, like, you know, Miiverse posts about things in a level. And I'm sure that's not the only influence, because I think they talk about like streamers or something being a, you know, kind of influence on that as well, like pre-release. But then also there's parts where it's like, yeah, you know, like be in a Lakitu cloud and do a pseudo shoot 'em up thing, like in Super Mario Bros. Wonder, when that was like a thing that was done a lot in Super Mario Maker by people. So it's like all the lessons that had any productive use were probably just put into that, and then literally everything else is just going to be in the AI nightmare Super Mario Maker. We're just trying to sell you something else with Mario's name on it edition before the new system comes out.
But the Mario Maker : what was the name of the top 100? Mario Maker : the top 100. It's just like 100 fucking insufferable stages.
Yeah, with an interesting definition of top, I would imagine.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I would apply the same statement to top 100 when it was Mario Party.
When it was Mario Party minigames, right? Yeah.
We probably are doing another Mario Party too, unfortunately.
God, I mean, the numbers on like Super Mario Party in particular, because that came first, so it's had longer to sell. But I think even the other one, the retro one, sold pretty well as well. So it's like hard to, you know, ignore. And that's the pattern they've been following.
Yeah. What if the one more thing is Mario Party? That's gonna be really sad.
That would just be a very, very depressing end.
The gravitas, not.
Yeah, right.
That's the point. It's like if that's what you would be putting there, just don't. My general advice, and this is, as far as that is in any way welcome or anything that anyone would ever pay attention to, would be don't force it. If you ain't got it, don't try and make it, like because it's just more risible that way. Because it just, so I know there are expectations for that. There was the infamous, Nintendo Land thing where it just built to like the confetti coming out or whatever, and everyone was just confused. So you got to be careful about these things. You want to make it very clear that it's just like, no, and they usually are, right? With the scripts, it's always like, and this is, if they don't have a thing that's like after the last thing, they're like, this is going to be the last thing we show today. Like they literally just say that, don't they? So they know all this. They're very careful about not wanting people to be left hanging, thinking there's going to be some awesome thing, and then there's either nothing or something that doesn't fit the bill. You just
port
can't.
Nintendo Land, you cowards, and make it the one more thing yet again.
I mean, to be fair, how did we get through all of that talking about Wii U games and not mention Nintendo Land?
What if they did it and it was also the one more thing a second time?
It would be a sort of full circleness to it, I suppose, in terms of the sort of, the beginning. That is kind of the beginning of the journey. Is the pre-release of Wii U and how badly that went, and now we're all the way on the other end of kind of that cycle of like, no, they fixed it. Switch was successful, and now that's coming to an end. Like there's an alpha omega thing there that's kind of,
I like it. The end is the beginning is the end.
But no, I mean, I enjoyed playing Nintendo Land. It's not like wasn't fun for what it was trying to do, but it just, it's synonymous with failure. I mean, that is true. You can't escape that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, we've talked about this with some other games in the past. It has the unfortunate distinction of being the one more thing as well, and having the really bad
music
image.
a one more thing?
I think that was more the kind of the meat of the presentation.
Yeah. Wasn't the lead? Wasn't that the lead, or at least the meat of it? Yeah.
It was really. Well, I don't know that it was necessarily last, but it was definitely most prominent, right? And that's why it took as much shit as it did, candidly, because it was
long.
This is what you dedicate your time to. This thing, that's kind of seems like it's a, reheated kind of take on a little demo kind of teaser thing that you had, 2 years earlier when you were showing off concepts for Wii. It just, it was one of those things where definitely it felt like, Nintendo thought, they were talking to sort of one group of people, and they were, to some extent, right? Some of the other kind of press that's there and retailers and all that. It's not, E3 wasn't all about games enthusiast press turning up. But equally, that was a lot of, what gets coverage is from those outlets, and they were like, what is, why are we spending time on this? So yeah, that was definitely, it didn't land at all, but I don't think it was like, we've gone through everything else and now, that was a bit kind of, but it's okay, this last thing will salvage it, and then like no one cared. It was just kind of a low-key year for them, I think. And then, of course, that because of that, like 2009, they really tried to... And some of it is just natural, like, cycle of the console stuff, I'm sure. But 2009, they really kind of went, okay, we're going to hit with all the kind of, as much kind of gamer enthusiast type stuff that we can sort of find, to pick ourselves back up after that one.
Yeah, so that's it. That's the one more thing. It's Nintendo Land. Nintendo Land Switch Edition. We did it. We've got there. They're gonna bring Reggie back for one day, for one night only. He's gonna come out on the stage with no audience. There's gonna be fake confetti raining down from the ceiling. Yeah, that's it. That's what's coming. How fucking like insane would our email be after that? It would be.
I do love the image of like the fake confetti falling on the one Nintendo employee in front of the camera, like with the green screen behind it.
Yes,
and for as much of a sort of somewhat kind of amusingly discordant like image that the nonplussed attendees at E3 getting the confetti dumped on them was. Just thinking about one guy having it, it's even more like, why are we doing this?
I'm trying to think who would be the funniest guy for it to be, and I just keep
poor
coming back.
bugger that would be in that scenario. That's like, you've got to look jazzed about Nintendo Land and getting confetti poured over you for that purpose.
It's was it even real? No, it was the CG fireworks was the shitty part. Yeah, it was real confetti and CG. That's it. That's what we need. We need real confetti, CG fireworks, green screen, and it's just Koizumi up there by himself trying to seem excited. It's like, no, pretend like you're excited about it. There's fireworks. I don't see any fireworks. There are fireworks. Don't worry about it. Yeah, that's what we need. There's our one more thing. That would be the funniest shit in the world. I would be beside myself laughing for hours.
It kind of feel like a weird like dropping of the mic for yes, we've again that Alpha Omega thing of like, yeah, we sure as hell came a long way from that, didn't we?
And now we're back.
Yeah, now our position is so unassailable that we can actually trot this out again for the irony value and be fine on the other end of it.
We're back and we're unstoppable. Oh, it's so stupid. It's such a stupid idea. I need it. I need it in my life. I need that to be the end of the Direct. What if we get Nintendo Land 2? There it is. I mean, the problem is it doesn't work with Switch. Like the pure conceit of many of the games we're reliant on one person has a screen the others can't see doesn't work unless there are multiple Switches involved. Which you could do. Like the Switch will support that, but I don't think they would ever do it. So, unfortunately, we will not get. I can't even get it out. We will not get Nintendo Land as the one more thing. It is perpetually stuck on. I don't know that game is adaptable from Wii U. I think that game is too Wii U pilled to get away from it. And so we will forever be forced to just have them standing in front of the fake fireworks as a memory in our hearts. All right, I think we're done leaking Nintendo's press conference, Nintendo's Direct. I think they're probably really mad at us right now that we gave away that there will be a Warriors game of indeterminate identity.
Well, and also when now inevitably there isn't the Nintendo Land 2 thing at the end, just know it's only because we scared them off it. They were they were gonna do it, but we jumped the gun, and now they're gonna be like, it's lost the shock value. Now there's no point.
Now they see us coming. They hear our footsteps.
I mean, Monita was wearing a horse mask, and that was a concern. And so that was part of it. Like, all the talk of Horace earlier had them gun shy, and then when we went straight to it, they're like, how did they know? So they're just going to cancel it to disgrace us. But it's real. We've played it. We have played. There is a game where you draw a line on your Switch, and it tells you how long the line is, rather than the other way around. It's very sophisticated.
Also, now I'm suddenly struck by disappointment that in your photoshopping exploits with the Horace mask, it wasn't photoshopped onto the top of the Wicker Man.
That would have been a good one.
Because, I mean, I've always thought it's a bit overplayed in a way. It's like, oh, we're going to kill you, and then he doesn't freak out until he sees the Wicker Man. It's like, well, you're dying anyway. I mean, come on. But, I mean, if it was the horse mask on top of it, well, you would freak out more, wouldn't you? You was like, no, not like this.
Honestly, it's the best way to go.
It's way worse than getting the plug pulled on you by Joe Pantoliano. It's very much a not like this moment.
What if it was Joe Pantoliano in the horse mask?
Bloody hell. Thinking about some of his proclivities in The Sopranos, that's not a place I want to go.
All right, well, what if if we're talking about bad reactions from Nick Cage, what if it's just the bees scene, but instead of the bees, it's just no, not the mask, and it's them putting the horse mask on him? But like once you put it on, like your brain ceases to function, and you are now. It turns into it was Masks to start the really awful Next Generation episode. Truly a terrible episode. But it's Horace. Actually, fuck it. Let's just remake Masks and replace all the masks with Horace. And whenever they start talking about, this is the memory of an ancient queen. This is the memory of an ancient game show host. Fuck it. That's way better. That's way better than both the game that it came from and the episode it's a parody of. Although the Picard dancing in a really stupid looking mask is very funny. If you've never seen that up there, I would say about a third of TNG is incredibly stupid. But that one might take the cake. That might be the dumbest of them all. All right. How long have we been recording? Long. 2 hours.
Yeah,
Holy shit.
Coming up on 2 hours, yeah.
That's an episode. Unless y'all have anything else you want to touch on. No, that's a stupid episode. All right, since I have to edit this and it's 2 hours and it's one long block, that's already going to be a nightmare to edit. So I'm actually going to say we should call it here. And emails. Well, we don't know when the direct is going to be, except we told you. But when that happens, you can send your emails to rfn@nintendoworldreport.com. That is rfn@nintendoworldreport.com. You can send questions, comments, thoughts, concerns. You can yell at us for leaking Nintendo's announcements and ruining the surprise for you. Don't worry, we left one more. It's about a Mario Kart game starring Waluigi. Like you can look forward to all that when it happens on the 18th or the 21st or the other date we said. But it's not that we don't know. It's that all of those dates are correct. There's going to be 3 directs. So just be prepared for that and look forward to it. But again, that is rfn@nintendoworldreport.com. And Greg, what is our music for this week?
Well, we talked earlier on, I did, about the 30th anniversary of Donkey Kong Country coming up later this year, but we've actually, right at this moment anyway, I think, crossing over in the Eastern time zone where you are, James, into the 14th of June, which is the 30th anniversary of the release of Donkey Kong for Game Boy, often referred to as Donkey Kong 94, which we is a classic, I think, justifiably could be referred to as such, one of the finest games on Game Boy. A great kind of successor to the original Donkey Kong by just totally blowing it. It kind of starts as like a little bit of a remake of those 4 different sort of stages, but then spins out into its own sprawling puzzle platform adventure. A real classic on that system. And of course, not one that you can play on Switch Online at the moment, likely because of the fact that Mario vs. Donkey Kong was very much patterned on it when it was first released on GBA, and then of course they remade that earlier this year, so I guess it would have been stepping on its toes, considering, certainly in some aspects you would still probably think I'd be interested to play it again. It's been a while, but that Game Boy Donkey Kong was still kind of the superior game. 30 years on, I did want to take the opportunity. We had a request that we used a few years ago for it, but to a kind of almost a very unique case, this, because it was a game that heavily leveraged the kind of Super Game Boy enhancements, right? So it's like they had the custom border where it's like, okay, is the game is playing out inset in an arcade cabinet and whatnot. But it also had actually special music tracks exclusive to the Super Nintendo version. So this is the staff roll, the ending theme from the game, but when you played it on Super Game Boy, you actually got that with Super Nintendo instrumentation. It's the same composition, but just, with that Super Nintendo sound over it. So, I thought it was just a really kind of neat piece of kind of specialized history and kind of shows you how much they were kind of pushing the different things they could do with Super Game Boy kind of integration back then. Is that something specifically we're likely to see, in a re-release or something? Very likely not. So they've never really kind of done that with any of the Super Game Boy enhancements, have they? You didn't have anything on the 3DS Virtual Console that kind of replicated that. And we've already had a number of games on the NSO Game Boy app that originally had some kind of, considerations programmed into them for Super Game Boy compatibility that, is not replicated. And this would be like the centerpiece of that, I would guess, the Game Boy Donkey Kong. But it just, that is not likely to be celebrated. And look, the game is still fantastic without any of that stuff, obviously. But still, I think it's nice to remember it in this little way. Even if I think probably somewhat as a result of being originally a Game Boy composition, it has a sort of weirdly abrupt ending. But it's a good fun ending song anyway.
Well, you said it was a classic from 30 years ago this week, and I thought you were talking about Speed, which also came out 30 years ago.
Wow, yes.
2 days ago. So very momentous week for media, the week of June 10th, 1994.
To be fair, if someone had said to you back in the day, well, basically, it's like Die Hard on a bus. It's like, is this someone trying to rip off Die Hard with a budget of $50? But it's way more fun than that makes it sound.
Oh, it's way more. If you haven't seen Speed because you weren't alive when it came out, which is totally justifiable, you should. It's extremely stupid. It's got a way bigger, like, at this moment, a way bigger cast than it had any right to have. After all, Dennis Hopper is in this fucking movie.
Oh, it's great, cackling, villainous Dennis Hopper. Like
Jeff Daniels is in it.
He is, yeah. He's the shoot the hostage guy.
Yeah, like this way better cast than this movie had any right to have. So, definitely go watch that while you play Donkey Kong 94 and think about what could have been. Like what?
Yeah, but John, I think you need to get on a bus with your analog pocket, playing Donkey Kong 94, legitimate copy only, and insist that the driver go really fast in service of honouring this occasion.
But not really fast, but decently fast. Moderately fast. Somebody left Speed in theaters and went to a store and bought Donkey Kong 94. And they had a good-ass day. So, John, I think you need to go relive that day.
I think so.
And so when we see you in 6 to 9 months after you're out of prison, we can start a whole new Iron Man streak.
Mm-hmm.
But on that, it is time for us to go. Bye, everybody.
Later.